All right, folks, we are back, and the Army psychiatrist who, of course, perpetrated one of the worst mass shootings in U.S. history, says that he planned to kill as many soldiers as he could, according to a military prosecutor, in the opening day of Nadal Hasan's trial at the Fort Hood base in Texas. Joining us now to talk about that is a man who we've discussed this with before, but now the trial's underway, and we're talking with New York State Senator Lee Zeldin, former U.S. Army intelligence officer and federal prosecutor. Hello, Senator.
Hey, Steve. How are you?
Good. I just flipped the cap off my pen for the world to see as I said hello to you. Anyway, yeah, it's underway, and as a layman and as a concerned citizen and a proud American, I see this, and I spoke with one of the victims on this show yesterday, and he was shot 6 times, and he is testifying tomorrow, and there's the possibility, of course, that he will be one of those victims who was cross-examined by Nadal Hasan, who's representing himself as his own attorney, and he'll have the opportunity to cross-examine these victims. To me, the whole thing has turned into a circus.
Yeah, it sure has. Fortunately, Hasan is not cross-examining all of the witnesses. He's cross-examining some, and the best thing that you can hope for, my wife tells me that it seems like the challenges in life, God just seems to know how much strength you have and how much you can handle. For any of the victims taking the stand, if Major Hasan was not to cross-examine all of them, hopefully some of those who don't have the strength are going to be spared. It's very heart-wrenching and unfortunate that some of these victims might be facing the person that shot them, and it's just it's sad. Heart goes out to them.
Why? I think you and I have been through this in the past. Why are we having this trial when he has wanted to plead guilty? And as a matter of fact, in his opening statement to the jury today, he said that the evidence will clearly show that I am the shooter. He said the evidence presented during the trial will show only one side. He then wanted to talk about how he shot his fellow troops to protect the Taliban fighters in Afghanistan, but the judge would not let him do that. So here we have a guy who said, I did it. The evidence will show I did it. Here's why I did it. Why on earth are we spending these millions of dollars on this trial and putting these victims through this?
Well, unfortunately, the rules don't allow an accused to plead guilty for charges that carry a capital punishment with it. And because the death penalty is an option in this particular case, Hasan can't plead guilty. He can come before the court, say I'm guilty, and of course he can be convicted and sentenced as such, but he can't actually enter a guilty plea because of the fact that it's a capital case.
Well, I mean that's a great explanation. It's too bad that that's the case, but we have to be put through this. Now, Hasan called himself a mujahideen who switched sides. Let me ask you this: the reason that I've heard for the administration or whoever it is that has to classify this or reclassify this as a terrorist attack from the current classification as a place of workplace violence, the reason it hasn't been done is because they don't want to prejudice the case. I've never heard anything so ridiculous in all my life. Here's a guy in the President of the United States who weighs in on the Trayvon Martin case both before any jury trial and then after. The Attorney General says he's concerned about the jury verdict in the Trayvon Martin case and threatens to bring more charges. You have the President weighing in on the police confrontation with Professor Gates in Massachusetts, says the police acted stupidly. This is before anything was adjudicated or determined. And also the President's come under criticism for making comments about sexual assaults in the military, saying that it's been harder to try defendants because they could use the President's statements as being prejudicial in the case. So my point is it legitimate to say that nothing can be changed here until after this case is over? Would it have harmed this defendant in your view if this had been classified as a terrorist attack instead of a case of workplace violence?
So, from the beginning, if we knew then everything that we know now coming out of the gate, classifying it differently, might be wholly appropriate. At this point, as we're going into a trial, especially as we go day by day, and Major Hasan continues to use certain words and that obviously identify this as terrorist activity. I would hope, just for the sake of bringing full justice to Major Hasan as well as all the victims and their families, I just want to make sure that this case doesn't get derailed and turn into a circus. And one of the things that I experienced as a prosecutor in the military justice system is that there is a heightened sensitivity towards having the record reflect anything that can be a cause for a case to get overturned, or for anything to happen by the prosecutor or the government outside of the courtroom that is just seem to indicate that there isn't a fair and impartial trial being conducted of Major Hasan. So just to we got to dot every I, cross everything to make sure that if this case was to get appealed, that appeal does not obviously doesn't result in the case being overturned, but also doesn't lead to an appeal that lasts almost in perpetuity, where we can't bring the capital punishment to Major Hasan. So, we just have to finish this case very delicately, cautiously, making sure that we secure the conviction, secure the death sentence. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be convicted, and making sure that the record is protected if the case was to be appealed, so that we can actually see him executed.
All right, so once this is all over and done with, then the classification could be changed. But I mean, I knew from day one, according to eyewitnesses, that he shouted Allah Akbar. I mean, that would, and then we very quickly found out that he was in touch with the Muslim cleric Anwar al-Laki, and his influence and the interviews and his statements, and it all became very apparent that this was jihad. And to classify it, of course, as a terrorist, as a case of workplace violence, as you well know, is a very big financial hardship and injustice for the victims and their families.
Yeah, it's obviously classifying it as workplace violence on the other end of the spectrum of classifications. Seems to be a silly characterization. But and the fact of the matter, when you know who Major Hasan is, who he was speaking to, what he was saying, all of the facts lead to that this is not a normal person. This is someone who has denounced his U.S. citizenship, who has tried to give up his oath as a United States officer. And I'd be one of the first ones in line to say, if he doesn't want to be a U.S. citizen, then it's a wonderful right to be a U.S. citizen. If you don't want that right, listen, we're better off without you.
Right. And you think, Lee, that if he found guilty according to plan, that he will eventually be put to death?
I sure hope so. But you know what? If you look at all of the capital cases that have gone on in the military over the course of the last few decades, it just never gets to that point.
Well, that's what I was going to say. From what I know of the track record, when you know much more, it doesn't seem too encouraging.
No, it certainly doesn't. And there's a track record where cases are overturned, and other cases where these appeals just they last forever until Major Hasan takes his final breath in a prison. And and that's why it's very important in case it is appealed. That anything going on inside that courtroom, that nothing indicates that Major Hasan wasn't given absolutely every opportunity to defend himself. Fortunately, he seems to be our best witness, because every time he opens up his mouth, he's confessing to all the wrong that he did.
All right, Senator, I appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah, great talking to you.
Thank you. We'll talk to you again. Thank you. That's Senator, New York State